Tonight,
everything's urgent.
Premier Moe speaks to business leaders ahead of Donald Trump's looming tariffs. As tech billionaires cozy up to Trump, what do you need to consider about your social media use?
Just relax.
Amateur bakers dust off their aprons for a chance at the Great Canadian Bake Off.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, January 29th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Hi there, thank you for watching. United States tariffs on Canadian goods are looming, expected to hit this Saturday. Premier Scott Moe spoke about it Wednesday morning at the Western Canada Economic Forum. Liam O'Connor has more.
During the Western Canada Economic Forum in Regina on Wednesday, Premier Scott Moe stressed to business leaders that the province does not want dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariff war. U.S. President Donald Trump promised 25% across-the-board tariffs against Canada and Mexico starting February 1st.
Where Saskatchewan's position is when it comes to the impending tariffs is we do support a very fine, small level of counter tariffs that are specifically selected to change the hearts and minds of largely Republican policymakers in the U.S.
Moe says Saskatchewan would not support a broad tariff war. Instead, the focus is to de-escalate the conversation. Moe also focused on encouraging the business community to communicate with their counterparts across the border to emphasize on how integrated the two countries' economies are. Afterward, Moe shared he's hopeful for the federal election soon.
One of the challenges that we have with legitimately sitting down and dealing with a president that has the largest mandate of any president in recent history, also taking the Senate, the Republican Party, and the House, is we need a federal government with an equivalent mandate.
With just days until the tariffs are expected to kick in, the official opposition was also stressing the importance of making the case to American consumers who are reliant on Saskatchewan exports.
This is going to be devastating to a number of states who are reliant on their exports to Canada and to Saskatchewan, but this is going to increase costs for consumers on both sides of the border.
Beck says with so many unknowns around the tariffs, she wants the Premier to recall the legislature for an emergency sitting. Liam O'Connor, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The city of Regina has a new flag-raising policy. The goal is to help the city avoid controversy as it has in the past. Under the new policy, the flag of a foreign country would only be flown at Regina City Hall if a dignitary from that country is visiting on official business, or if it's the flag of Regina's sister city. The flags of Canada, Saskatchewan, Regina, the Union Jack, Métis, and Treaty 4 flags are still allowed.
The world's a complicated place. To come up with a policy that covers every permutation, combination, and situation, and explanation becomes burdensome. And as a councillor, I want to work on the things that matter to the citizens of Regina.
Previously, any organization could apply to have their flag flown at City Hall. That policy caused controversy last year as the Israeli flag was flown in May, and again when a Palestinian flag raising was planned for November, but it was canceled at the last minute by then Mayor Sandra Masters. The city of Saskatoon is reassessing property values. It's a revenue-neutral process, meaning the overall amount will remain the same, but some owners will pay more than others. The value of properties on the outskirts of the city, like Stonebridge and Brighton, will have risen the most. Others, like Kelsey Woodlawn, have dropped. Overall, the value of residential properties in Saskatoon has risen by 13%. Homeowners' property taxes will depend on where they land around that threshold.
Yeah, no, this does not mean that property taxes are going up 13%. What this means is that the redistribution of property tax is occurring as a result of reassessment. Your property tax will shift as in relation to how your property changed in relation to 13%.
Saskatoon's process was a mass appraisal for homes. It compared similar properties for similar assessments. Property owners can contact the city about their assessment and, if necessary, file an appeal before March 28th. A candlelit vigil honoring the life of an international student who was killed his first week at a new job was held in Saskatoon Tuesday night. Helena Mahalik reports.
More than 100 people stood outside the workplace where Alfred Ochuri died, holding candles and flashlights, shining a light for the young man who was brutally killed. The 23-year-old arrived from Ghana for school 4 months ago with plans of a better life. That dream was never realized. Ochuri was killed at his workplace on January 20th, just 1 week into the job. A 53-year-old coworker is charged with first-degree murder. Now, the community is rallying together to remember Ochuri and to honor his legacy.
He was jovial. He was very hardworking. He wanted to make an impact. He wanted to do something to help the people back home. He wanted to find his purpose in life, develop himself educationally.
Strangers, city officials, members of the Black and African community showed up in waves to stand in solidarity with the family.
Especially for the Black community. And we are not saying because of the Black community, no community should go through this. I mean, the sort of torture, the traumatic and all those things that we have to go through. So I think this vigil is very relevant, I mean, to commemorate his legacy and what he stood for.
And we'll continue.
People took the opportunity to speak up, like the Saskatoon police and his family and friends. Now the family is begging the justice system to hear their plea for help.
Say his last words were help, help. He shouted, he screamed. And tonight, these are our words as well to the justice system. We say help, help us. Help us to understand what is happening. Help us to give meaning to this.
The family hopes that Ochuri's story can start a movement to end workplace violence and create a safer community for all. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Grade 8 students from 25 schools gathered at Scott Collegiate in Regina for a first-hand look at policing and law enforcement. It was called the Scott Police Academy Showcase, and it included a demonstration by the RPS Explosives Unit, the K-9 Unit, and the SWAT team. The goal is to connect youth with officers and give them insight into the responsibilities of policing in their community. Current students from the Academy were also in attendance, sharing their own journeys and experiences.
The Academy is like an amazing program, you know, like it's gave me a sense of belonging, and it could possibly give even more youth that sense of belonging that they may need to be looking for. And things like this, you know, like this presentation, once just the Academy, showcase it pretty well. And it shows like the cool things that students could get to experience.
Right now, the Academy has 74 students enrolled, its highest ever. There's an information night on February 5th at Scott Collegiate for any students and parents who might want more information. From giant cakes to delicious cupcakes, some of Saskatchewan's most passionate home bakers were in Saskatoon for the Great Canadian Baking Show's casting call. The producers are looking for talent to join the action in the famous tent for the next season.
I'm here at the Great Canadian Baking Show casting call, where Saskatchewan bakers are hoping to show off their homemade goods and make it to the competition.
On your marks.
Get set.
Bake.
Can you describe what you made today?
Thank you. I actually made one of the famous popular cake from the Philippines. It's called Purple Yam, famously called ube cake. I made like layers with ube halaya, cream cheese frosting with ube chiffon, and topped with white chocolate disc and a hand-piped butterfly for garnish. I love baking. I think almost half of my life I'm baking. I'm into decorating. It's art, so I really love baking, playing with chocolates, flowers, and everything.
Why did you decide to come here today?
Well, for me, it was a little bit of a last-minute decision. This morning in the rush, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go. And when I got here, I realized that you were supposed to have brought some baking, which I didn't. But luckily, I had my son's birthday cake in the back of my vehicle for his party this weekend. He's turning 9, and J is for Jasper. That's my son's name. It's a chocolate double-layer cake. We've got the white icing, and the soccer ball design is actually quite challenging to do. I looked on Pinterest for some inspiration on how to draw it.
What does it mean to bring that one as your story to the show?
Well, I'm going to have to make him another cake because I think that you're going to sample it, but that's no problem. I think he would absolutely love it. This morning when I dropped him off for school, he said, good luck, Mom, have so much fun. And I think, it's good for my kids to see me take a turn, with some of my passions, right? And to do something for me.
So what's your advice for bakers today as they go through this, I guess, audition call?
My advice for the bakers that are here today is just relax. Be comfortable, be confident, just show who you are. It's about the bake for sure, but it's also more about who you are. They want that energy, that excitement, that personal story to come through. So don't hold back. If you're weird, be weird. If you're crazy, be crazy. It works really well. They want to see that.
Another warmish day across south and central Saskatchewan. Warm enough out there to comfortably go for a walk or maybe even ride your bike along the river in Saskatoon. The Bridge City is in for a couple of days of snow now. Ethan will have more on that and the rest of the province coming up after the break. Stay with us. Donald Trump's tariff threat looms, and some Canadians are vowing to boycott American goods. But as Lindsay Duncombe explains, it's not as easy as it sounds.
We've been hearing it from politicians for weeks now. They're saying in the face of these American tariff threats, Canadians should shop at home, buy Canadian. Now that's something that's easy to say, but not so easy to do. The reality is there are lots of goods Canada doesn't produce and a lot of food we can't grow, especially in winter. In order to buy Canadian, shoppers need to do research, they need to be prepared to make substitutions, and the reality is you're probably going to have to pay more. We talked to some experts about how to buy Canadian, and they said the easiest place to start is the grocery store. There, it should be pretty clearly labeled. You can see if your apples are from Washington or if they're from the Okanagan. The grocery store is where you also might have to make some substitutions because take oranges. There are no orange groves in Canada. So if you like juice in the morning and you want to buy Canadian, then you just might have to substitute and start drinking apple juice. And when it comes to cost, yeah, it might cost you a bit more. And it's not just for food. That's true for clothing and for furniture. The reason is Canadian products are often made at a smaller scale, and we have different regulations, higher labor costs. The experts we spoke to said that means this might be prohibitive for some people to buy Canadian, but they did say to start small. Buy Canadian where you can, do some research, and that if you are able to make some changes, it would be supporting workplaces and people and the industry here at home in the face of those looming tariff threats. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Could the connection between Donald Trump and big tech media executives impact Canadians and social media? The Morning Edition talked to the U of R's Brian McQuinn to find out.
I think many of us expected it, but often now I think what's changed in the administration is that a lot of things that were behind the scenes are now really obvious. I mean, we always know that large companies want to get access to power, and now it's just sort of nakedly so. But I think it's really important that we look at some of the nuances there, because not all of those executives were there necessarily by choice, in the sense that there is as much a threat as there is for some of them that attraction to that power. And I think for some of them, they need to ensure that their companies are not targeted by the new administration, while people like Elon Musk, I think, are there quite willingly and, in fact, sort of jumping around, giving salutes at different times in their sort of support for the administration.
What did you mention? I mentioned this in the introduction, but what did you make of the fact that TikTok had a very quiet and quiet return, but it was sort of loud on the app with the message that said, thanks to President Trump, we're back?
I think it's always important in these situations to really see how things are operating in the United States. And I think it's quite obvious that if you sort of placate and you sort of defer and in some way sort of bend the knee to Trump, you are going to get that access. And I think that's part of their way of understanding how Trump works, as far as, you know, being able to show that in a really fundamental way. But I think it's important that we always take a step back and sort of say, what are the dynamics that are happening here? And for me, it's really important that we look at sort of why do these different foreign companies, in this case TikTok, want to have access to Canadians. And what we've done in some of our research is shown the extent to which, whether it's Russia or China, are able to, in fact, influence Canadians. And we heard a lot about, wanting, privacy, and a lot of the explanations for why TikTok was banned don't really seem to hold for most Canadians, and I would agree. But the real story going on is, why is it they want to influence how we think about China, how we think about Ukraine, how we think about basically the world? There's a reason why all our apps are banned in China.
The term oligarchy just kind of rolls off the tongue, and I think it's me. I've used it a couple times this morning, and when we extend this to, let's say, Google or YouTube, or even podcasts people are watching and listening to, and Trump's been said to have a lot of success with younger men because of the podcasts that are on, and
Exactly.
those operate on the same algorithm. So their clips are being taken on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, on Facebook, and being shared. And that's a whole nother ecosystem that happens here. What's the impact of that?
And so this is the piece that I think, again, whatever you're feeling of politics around Trump, he understood that as long as you are able to get attention, as long as you are out there, that is the goal. At every channel in every way. Well, a lot of the sort of Democrats were, we should only be seen when we're saying good things, and that they actually avoided a lot of those channels. And it turns out that, for better or for worse, with social media, it is now about attention, and as much as it can be drawn upon you. And so this is why he was as successful as he was, because on, whether it be Joe Rogan or others, he went on and chose to go on all of those different podcasts. And so he was able to, through every avenue available to him, pound out his messages to the world.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Another lovely day out there.
Yeah, a lot of us above seasonal, a lot of us getting above the freezing mark through the province. Some of us also setting some temperature records, a couple of us at least in east central areas of the province, including Nipawin, which this was Tuesday, hit nearly 4 degrees, breaking a record set back in the 70s. Hudson Bay, you tied your record set back in the 70s, just shy of the 4-degree mark there as well. And again, another warm one, possible records in some areas, and even getting close to 10 degrees in Maple Creek. Even warmer in Alberta. Look at that, 12 degrees in Calgary. And you go all the way back to Churchill, Manitoba, and daytime highs there, barely getting above minus 25. Now, that cold air that's in northern Manitoba is also in northern Saskatchewan, and we have some wind chills Wednesday into Thursday, likely going to be getting into that minus 45 to minus 50 range if you're in places like Stony Rapids and Wollaston Lake. And in addition to the cold temperatures, we also have a little bit of snow to talk about as well. That'll be a theme over these next coming days here as that cold air sinks southward. Churchill region, you've already been seeing that a little bit through Wednesday, but the snow starts moving out early Thursday morning. Cloud cover starts building in Thursday afternoon for much of south and central as the north clears out and stays very cold. And then high pressure moves on through, and that allows our next weather system to start moving in. We're looking at snow moving through southwestern, west central, south central parts of the province for Friday. That'll move northeastward through Regina and Saskatoon and much of the rest of south and central as we get through Friday. And then another system developing will bring some more snow to western sections for Saturday. So, with all this being said, I think maybe a few more centimeters through the Churchill region with that system overnight, and then could see amounts maybe in the range of 10 to 15 centimeters as we get through that system over the weekend. For south and central, I think for Regina and for eastern sections, a good 5 to 10 centimeters. Also for Saskatoon as well. Some west central areas could be climbing into that 10 to 15 centimeter range yourselves. But until then, looking for another nice day Thursday. Friday, I think Regina, I'll put you at about 5 centimeters for that right now. The remnants of that system bringing some flurries for Saturday. Breezy as we see conditions, as we see temperatures start to drop as we head into early next week with wind chills into the minus 30s. Saskatoon, a couple of rounds of snow there, I think, in the 5 to 10 centimeter range. And then, yes, those overnight lows getting close to the minus 30 mark, feeling into the minus 30s during the day for Sunday, Monday, and likely Tuesday as well, before we start to see a reprieve coming for Wednesday. So colder temperatures right now are in the north, Sam, but they are certainly headed southward.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Well, Regina Bites is back, and this week, columnist Alan Pulga takes you inside the Burrow at the Hotel Saskatchewan. You can catch him on the morning edition Thursday morning or read about it at cbc.ca/Sask. We'll be back after the break. The Bank of Canada has cut its interest rate by 25 points, bringing it down to 3%. But officials warn that tariff threats are clouding Canada's economic outlook.
I do need to be clear, it's still going to be difficult to be precise about the economic impacts because we have little historical experience with tariff changes of the magnitude that the U.S. is contemplating.
Officials add that without a trade war with the U.S., the country's GDP growth is expected to strengthen this year, with inflation remaining close to the 2% target in recent months. The latest cut marks the 6th straight reduction since June. And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
And we'll be looking at pretty mild temperatures again tonight for south and central as we drop kind of in that -5 to -10 range. I think many of us will be seeing the clouds clear away as we head through the night. For northern Saskatchewan, especially in the far north, that concern is some very dangerously cold temperatures near -40 the further north you are. Feeling like -45 to -50 with a little bit of wind. Those clearing skies, though, going to start to move southward through the day. And for the Churchill region, that means that as you get that clearing skies as the snow moves out, your temperature is likely going to drop closer to that -20 mark as we head into the afternoon Thursday. For south and central, especially for the south, I think we're still looking for some sunshine. Many of us kind of in that freezing to -5 range once again. But you see that cloud cover starting to move southward as we get into the afternoon, and those colder temperatures starting to move down from northern Saskatchewan as well. But Regina's 4th annual Frost Festival opens on Thursday, and organizers have been getting the locations or hubs ready, and that includes a new downtown feature called The Grind. A field of 16 Canadian and international athletes will compete for $30,000 in prize money over 2 divisions. The qualifiers are at 7 p.m. Friday and the finals at 6 p.m. Saturday. After the finals, there will be fireworks in Victoria Park starting at 8:30. Frost has downsized to 3 hubs instead of 4 this year: downtown, Warehouse District, and Wascana. The festival is free and runs through Sunday. Might be a little bit chilly on the back half of that festival, Sam, but not too bad to start it.
And it's free, so I mean, can we complain?
Exactly, that's right.
All right, thanks for that.
You bet.
That's it from us. For more news anytime, you can head to our website, subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Thanks for watching.